perfect life, or so I thought. I always believed that love, real love, was unbreakable. I believed that when you found the one, you could weather any storm together. I believed that trust, honesty, and devotion were all that mattered. But beliefs can be shattered, and my world shattered the day I found out my wife, Emily, the woman I had promised to love until my last breath, was sleeping with another man. I never thought this would be my story, but it is, and today I'm going to take you through it. The calm before the storm. Emily and I had been together for 8 years, 8 years of laughter, love, and memories that I thought would last a lifetime. We had the kind of relationship that people envied. We finished each other's sentences. We had inside jokes that no one else understood. And no matter what, we always kissed goodnight, or at least we used to. Looking back, I realize now that the little things started to fade long before I noticed. The kisses became shorter. The laughter became less frequent. The conversations became hollow. But I ignored it because I loved her, because I trusted her, because I never thought she would betray me. The first signs. They say hindsight is 20/20, and now I can see all the warning signs that I foolishly ignored. It started with small things. Emily began staying late at work more often. She was a marketing executive at a big firm, and I knew her job was demanding, so I didn't question it at first. But then came the late-night calls, whispers in the living room when she thought I was asleep. I would wake up at 2 a.m. and hear her voice, soft and hushed. "Yeah, I miss you too." My stomach would twist, but I convinced myself that I was overreacting. Then came the weekend trips. "I need some time for myself," she had said one evening, casually stirring her coffee. "Just a little getaway with the girls." Emily had never been the type to go on spontaneous girls' trips, but again, I ignored the unease gnawing at my gut. But the real sign, the one I still can't forget, was the perfume. One evening, she came home late, as usual. When I hugged her, something felt different. She smelled like cologne, not her own perfume, but a distinctly masculine scent. I pulled back slightly, my heart pounding. "Did you hug someone at work today?" I asked, forcing a chuckle. She hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. Then she laughed. "Oh, yeah, one of my co-workers got a promotion and we all celebrated. Probably picked up someone's cologne." A reasonable answer. A believable one. So why did it feel like a lie? Doubt creeps in. Once the thought enters your mind that maybe something isn't right, it never leaves. It festers, grows, consumes. I started noticing more things. Her phone was suddenly always on silent. She would turn it face down when we were together. She started going to the gym, a place she used to hate. And worst of all, she stopped looking at me the way she used to. Gone was the warmth in her eyes when I walked through the door. Gone was the excitement in her voice when she saw me. I tried to ignore it. I tried to convince myself that I was being paranoid. But the truth has a way of making itself known. And soon, I would know everything. The investigation begins. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. Emily was in the shower and her phone was sitting on the nightstand. I never went through her phone before, not once in 8 years. I believed in trust, in privacy, in respect. But in that moment, all of that shattered. With shaking hands, I picked up her phone and unlocked it. And what I found changed everything. The message that broke me. At first, I didn't see anything unusual, just messages from friends, work emails. And then I saw his name, Daniel. My pulse quickened. My hands felt ice cold. I clicked on the conversation. The most recent message made my vision blur. "Daniel, I miss you already." "Emily, I miss you too, baby." Baby. My breath caught in my throat. My chest tightened. I scrolled up. "Daniel, last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you." "Emily, me neither. You always know how to make me feel so alive. Alive. The words slammed into me like a punch to the gut. My wife, the woman I had built my life with, felt alive with another man. I kept scrolling, my mind screaming at me to stop, but I couldn't. Daniel, I love the way you look when you're on top of me. I dropped the phone as if it had burned me. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode. My body was shaking. This wasn't just an emotional affair, this was real, physical. I had to confront her. I had to know the truth. The calm before the storm. Emily stepped out of the bathroom, wrapped in a towel, humming softly. She smiled when she saw me. "Hey, babe." I stared at her, my mind replaying those messages over and over. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to grab her and shake her and ask why, but I did none of those things. Instead, I smiled back, because I wasn't going to confront her yet. Not tonight. I needed proof. Solid, undeniable proof. So that when I finally confronted her, she wouldn't be able to lie her way out of it. And that's when I made my decision. I was going to catch her in the act. Once it enters your mind, it spreads. Slowly at first, creeping into every thought, twisting every memory, making you question everything you thought was real. After reading those texts on Emily's phone, I felt like I was suffocating. My hands trembled, my heart raced. My mind screamed at me to wake up from this nightmare. But this wasn't a nightmare. This was real. The woman I loved, the woman I had built my life with, had been lying to me. And now, I needed to know the full truth. The plan. I didn't confront her that night. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. I wanted to grab her and demand answers. I wanted to scream, to cry, to make her feel the same pain I was feeling. But I didn't. Because I knew she would lie. She would twist the truth, manipulate the situation, make me feel like I was overreacting. So I stayed silent. I acted normal. I kissed her goodnight. I told her I loved her. I watched as she closed her eyes and drifted into peaceful sleep, while my world was falling apart. But deep down, I had already made my decision. I was going to catch her in the act. I needed proof. Undeniable, irrefutable proof. So the next day, I did something I never thought I would do. I bought a hidden camera. Setting the trap, it was small, barely noticeable. I placed it in the living room, hidden between the books on the shelf. The camera had a motion sensor, which meant it would only start recording if someone was there. I felt sick doing it. This wasn't me. I wasn't the kind of person who spied on my wife. I wasn't the kind of person who needed proof that the woman I loved was betraying me. But I had no choice, because deep down, I already knew the truth. I just needed to see it with my own eyes. The night, everything changed. The next evening, Emily came home late again. She walked through the door, smiling like nothing was wrong. She kissed my cheek, told me she was exhausted, and went straight to take a shower. I stood there, watching her walk away, feeling like I was looking at a stranger. My heart pounded as I reached for my laptop. I opened the live feed from the hidden camera. And then I waited, the proof I never wanted to find. That night, Emily told me she had a work meeting and wouldn't be home until late. I nodded, pretending to believe her. But as soon as she left, I opened my laptop again and watched the camera feed. For the first hour, nothing happened. And then, at exactly 9:42 p.m., the front door opened, and he walked in. Daniel, tall, confident, arrogant. Emily appeared a second later, smiling as she closed the door behind him. And then she kissed him. Not a quick peck. A slow, passionate, intimate kiss. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I just sat there, staring at the screen, watching as my wife, the woman I had loved for 8 years, held another man in her arms. In our home, on our couch. The same couch where we had spent countless nights cuddling, watching movies, talking about our future. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't, because if I looked away, maybe I could pretend it wasn't real. But it was real. She was laughing, touching him, whispering in his ear. And then she led him to our bedroom. That was the moment something inside me broke. The moment my love for her, whatever was left of it, died. The confrontation. I didn't wait. I grabbed my car keys and drove home. By the time I arrived, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely unlock the door. I stepped inside, and the first thing I saw was Daniel's jacket hanging on the chair. I clenched my fists. I took a deep breath, and then I walked toward the bedroom. The door was slightly open. I could hear whispers, and then I heard her laugh. A laugh that used to belong to me. I didn't hesitate. I pushed the door open. The look on Emily's face when she saw me, I will never forget it. Her eyes widened in shock. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Daniel, half-dressed, turned pale. I stared at them, my voice calm but ice cold. How long? Emily blinked as if she couldn't comprehend what was happening. James, I can explain. I took a step forward. I didn't ask for an explanation. I asked how long. She swallowed. Tears welled up in her eyes. Daniel shifted uncomfortably, reaching for his shirt. Look, man, maybe we should just... I cut him off with a glare. If you say one more word, I swear to God. He shut up. Emily's voice was barely a whisper. 6 months. 6 months. I let out a bitter laugh. 6 months of lies. 6 months of betrayal. 6 months of me holding on to a love that no longer existed. I shook my head. You had 6 months to tell me the truth, Emily. 6 months to end this. And you didn't. She broke down, sobbing. James, please, it was a mistake. I love you, I swear I do. I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just emptiness. I turned around, walked to the closet, and grabbed my suitcase. Emily ran after me, grabbing my arm. James, please, don't leave. We can fix this. I pulled away. No, Emily, you broke this and I'm done. With that, I walked out of the bedroom, out of the house, out of her life, and I never looked back. When I walked out that night, I thought the worst was over. I thought leaving Emily, walking away from the life we built together, would be the hardest thing I'd ever do. I was wrong, because the hardest part wasn't leaving. The hardest part was what came after. The numbness. I drove aimlessly for hours that night. The city lights blurred together as I tried to process everything that had just happened. I had caught my wife cheating on me, in our own home, in our own bed, and yet I didn't feel anger, I didn't feel sadness. I just felt numb, like my heart had shut down, like my emotions had packed up and left before I did. I pulled into a motel parking lot around 2 a.m. I sat in my car for a long time, staring at my reflection in the rearview mirror. I looked like a stranger, a man who had lost everything, a man who had nothing left. I should have cried, I should have screamed, but I just sat there, empty. The first morning without her, I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them. Emily, Daniel, their hands on each other, their lips pressed together, her laughter. The laughter that used to belong to me. When the sun finally rose, I felt like I hadn't slept in years. I reached for my phone, instinctively wanting to text Emily to tell her I'd be home soon. And then I remembered. Home didn't exist anymore. She had destroyed it. The messages and the desperation. By the time I checked my phone, there were 27 missed calls from Emily, and nearly 50 messages. Emily, James, please pick up. We need to talk. Emily, I'm so sorry. Please don't do this. Emily, James, I made a mistake. I love you. I swear I do. Emily, please just come home. We can fix this. Emily, I'll do anything. Please just talk to me. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the call button. For 8 years, she was my first call every morning and my last call every night. For 8 years, she was my safe place. For 8 years, she was my everything. But now, she was nothing. I deleted every message, blocked her number, and just like that, she was gone. The loneliness that followed, the days that followed were the hardest. I had nowhere to go. I couldn't go back to our house. It wasn't mine anymore. So I stayed at a cheap motel. I barely ate. I barely slept. I barely existed. Every night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, haunted by the same questions. Why did she do it? Was I not enough? Did she ever really love me? And the worst question of all, would I ever be okay again? The unexpected call. A week later, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to pick up. Hello? A deep voice answered. James, it's Daniel. I nearly dropped the phone. Of all the people in the world, he was the last person I expected to hear from. What the hell do you want? I said through clenched teeth. He sighed. Look, man, I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need to talk to you. It's about Emily. I didn't say anything. I should have hung up, but I didn't, because despite everything, I still needed answers. Make it quick, I muttered. There was a long pause, and then, she lied to me too. The truth about Emily. Daniel told me everything. Emily had told him she was single. She had never mentioned me, never mentioned our marriage, never mentioned the life we had built together. She told me you were her ex, Daniel said. She said she had been out of a relationship for over a year. I felt sick. All this time, I thought Emily had chosen him over me. But the truth was even worse. She had been living two lives. She hadn't just betrayed me, she had betrayed him too. I gripped the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. Why are you telling me this? Daniel sighed. Because I ended it. I confronted her about everything, and she finally admitted the truth. She told me about you, about the marriage, about all the lies. I swallowed hard. And? She's a mess, he said. She's been calling me non-stop, crying, begging me to take her back. I let out a bitter laugh. Yeah, sounds familiar. There was silence. Then Daniel said something I never expected. I'm sorry, James. If I had known the truth, I never would have gone near her. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something other than pain. I felt relief, because for the first time I realized this wasn't about me. This was about her, her lies, her choices, her betrayal, and for the first time I stopped blaming myself. Moving on. It took months of therapy, months of healing, months of learning how to be alone again. But one day, I woke up and realized something. I wasn't thinking about Emily anymore. She no longer haunted my thoughts. Her laughter no longer echoed in my head. Her betrayal no longer controlled me. I was free, and that was the day I knew I had won. 1 year later, a year after that night, I ran into Emily. It was pure coincidence. She looked different, tired, broken, like she was carrying the weight of all the mistakes she had made. She looked at me with sad eyes. James, can we talk? I smiled. A real, genuine smile. Emily, there's nothing left to say. And then I walked away. For the first time in a long time, I felt light, like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, like I was finally at peace. Because sometimes losing someone who doesn't truly love you is the best thing that can ever happen to you. Betrayal destroys you. It shatters your trust, your confidence, your sense of self-worth. But it also teaches you. It teaches you that you are stronger than you think. It teaches you to never ignore your instincts. It teaches you that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is the best thing that ever happens to you. Because in the end, I didn't lose Emily. She lost me.